Run for office? Will you 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 run for office?
The one greatest piece of advice you'd like to share with everybody?
The greatest piece of advice. So, I think it's a couple of things, but it's all about
But before we get into the conversation, I just want to say, please like, comment, and subscribe. My goal is to get to 100 subscribers before the end of the new year, and I think right now we're at like 75, so we're super close. So you should definitely subscribe as you're watching this video. And then afterwards too, share it to your friends. Okay, let's get started. So could you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, first of all, for having me here in your home for this interview. My name is Meredith Lawson-Rowe, and I happen to serve with your dad on Reynoldsburg City Council, and I represent Ward 4. My family and I have lived here in Reynoldsburg for about 18 years, and we have, when I say we, my husband and I, we've been married for 30 years, and we have 3 adult children, 2 of which were in college, just as you were talking about going to school in a little bit. So 2 are college students, and my eldest is famous for being the dad to my grandchildren.
That's awesome. So before we get into the more serious stuff, I need to ask you about your fashion style. Every time I see you at like any event or any photos on like Instagram and stuff, I'm always like, oh my god, that is such an awesome outfit. So could you tell me a little bit about like where your inspiration for your sense of style comes from?
Well, let me say you're too kind. Thank you for the compliments. I need you in my mirror in the morning time when I'm getting ready. Quite honestly, my comfort is to be in leggings and jogging pants, leggings, t-shirt, and sneakers. And I guess when I'm out at events, because everyone doesn't know the personal side of me, I want to kind of show up professionally, because we know a lot of times people judge us sadly based on our outward appearance. So I just try to be as business professional as possible. And I guess my fashion inspiration comes from my mom and my grandmommy, because both of them are really into styles and clothes. And my mother was a model when I was a young girl, and so she's always carried on the tradition of style and grace, and so I try to be like her.
That's awesome. And I think everybody knows that you are like football mom of the year. So that means that you probably have a ride or die football team. Me, I just recently aligned myself with the something Eagles. I don't know, they played against the Cowboys the other day.
That would probably be the Philadelphia Eagles. Were they green and white?
I think so. I don't know.
Okay.
But what is your ride or die team?
Well, I think that's a great question. I'm a football mom, and my favorite team is always whatever team my kids are playing for. And so my youngest son has retired from playing college football, so I don't have a ride or die team. I just like the competition of it all, and I like the excitement, and I like the crowd, and I like to cheer. And of course, the most important thing to do when you're at a football game is you have to go to the concession stand and get popcorn and a Coke or whatever is your favorite snack when you're at the game. Some people like hot dogs, some people like candy. I like the popcorn.
Yeah. My favorite part of like going to football games and stuff is just seeing my friends and being like in the community, even if I have no idea what we're cheering for or what just happened.
Yes.
So football and sports in general is like a really not dividing, but like a really connecting thing across the whole world, as we just saw with the World Cup.
Yes.
So I did not follow the World Cup very closely, but I know my parents did, and my whole family, like the family group chat was constantly blowing up like, oh my God, Netherlands won over you, haha, and all that stuff. So do you want to talk a little bit about how that can like affect a community, sort of? Because I know Reynoldsburg, like we all get together when there's a football game.
Yeah, so sports, just the competition and the sports and the character building of it all is so very near and dear to my heart. There's so much that we can learn about ourselves and each other and our team and our community behind sports in terms of the football player or whomever the athlete is. And the athlete could be someone that plays chess or someone that plays pickleball or football. There's so many lessons that we learn from sports and working together in a common goal, in fighting through, and going up against our opponent, building community, trusting one another, depending on one another. There's a saying that there's no I in team. So on a football team, the quarterback is the one that touches the ball the most, but he can't make that touchdown unless he throws it to someone or someone is blocking for him. So that's what I enjoy about sports individually and on a team level. In terms of a community, it is just so refreshing to gather in one community, one state, one country, and basically globally, everyone is focused on one common goal, and that is for their team to win, or their team to be victorious, or their team to have the winning goal, or whatever the case may be. I just love the opportunity to build community, and sports has been such a rewarding way for us to build community here in Reynoldsburg, throughout Central Ohio, throughout the state. We have Buckeye fans who will actually be following the big Buckeye game against Georgia on Saturday, I believe. And so that is a time that many of us in the country will all get behind and cheer for our one team, whoever that may be.
Yeah, I know some of my friends' parents are major Buckeye fans,
Mm-hmm.
and I know other people who are like major Michigan fans.
Yes.
Every time that game rolls around,
Yes.
it's war. That's all I can say.
And it's just it's fun. It's friendly rivalry. It's competition. It's time. It's a time for us to come together and just build community.
Yeah. So in talking about community, I think now it's been almost 3 years since you were elected onto Reynoldsburg City Council. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you got to running, like your inspiration for running,
Sure.
and sort of what that process was?
Sure, thank you. So my journey into politics is not uncommon for many women who don't see themselves as political, and that was my case. I was someone that was asked to run for office, and I learned in 19 that many women have to be asked 7 times in order to agree to run for office. So let's get it out of the way. Run for office, will you 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 run for office. So the next time someone asks you, or any of our viewers who happen to be young ladies, the next time someone asks you to run for office, it will be your 8th time, and so that's the time that you just pull your shoulders back and say, yes, I'll do it. So in terms of what my journey was, I was straight off the street. I did not think that I had the background or the education or the knowledge to serve in office. And my political mentor shared with me that many of us who are called to serve are already doing the work in the community, just not with the title. Say, for instance, as a young girl, I always did some sort of volunteer work in the community, be it with Girl Scouts or with church or an extracurricular activity organization at school. And I continued on that tradition of serving and giving back. And so whenever I was asked to run, I realized, well, wow, there is some sort of serving that I'm already doing. I'm already doing community organizing, community building, advocating um, for organizations and people in the community. So I decided to say yes. And so I went for it. And I had an opportunity to meet your dad and the other people that were on our slate, and we formed a team. And my efforts in order to get elected was very grassroots. It was very no nonsense. It was knock doors, meet my neighbors, and share, this is what I want to do. I want to make your joys and concerns important and take it to City Hall. I want to know what's important to you, what's important to your neighbor, what's important to the next neighbor, and all of us. I want to know what's important to you so that I can take that to City Hall and advocate for what it is that is important for you. And so essentially, I was successful in doing that, and I have just fallen in love with the opportunity to serve neighbors here in Reynoldsburg. And in representing Ward 4, I've had an opportunity to build relationships with neighbors, not only in Ward 4, but throughout the community and in Central Ohio. And it is very rewarding to represent Reynoldsburg and for people to see that, hey, you know, although we're not in Columbus, we're in Franklin County. And although we're not in Gahanna or Blacklick or Pickerington, we're all neighboring municipalities. So in order for one of us to succeed, we all must succeed. And so that's what I've enjoyed so far.
So now that we sort of know the beforehand, would you like to tell us your greatest hits or the things that you've sort of helped pass, introduced on your time in council so far?
Yes, and that's been a whirlwind. So on council, not only do I represent Ward 4, but I have an opportunity to serve on 3 other committees. Let's say public safety, I'm mixing them up. Let me take my time. Public service and transportation, public safety and law, and recreation, parks and recreation. So those are the 3 committees. And so on those committees, it's been my highest honor to, under the Public Safety and Law Committee, we were able to pass the anti-discrimination ordinance, and that was with 100% consensus of the council. So my council colleagues and I all agreed that discrimination has no place in the city of Respect, and I'm tremendously proud about that. Under the Parks and Recreation Committee, we were able to pass a budget and have new playground equipment installed at JFK Park that's ADA compliant. And so I'm tremendously proud about that because parks are a way to build community. Families enjoy the park, and the park should be a place where all kids can thrive and play and enjoy themselves, not just a certain part of a community of children. Under the Transportation Committee, I was able to help pass the budget for our streets program. And so the streets and sidewalks and road programs are very important here in Reynoldsburg. And so you may have heard the expression, you know, streets, sidewalks, picking up trash, that's not a Republican problem, a Democrat problem, or independent problem. That is a problem, not a problem, but those are services that the city provides for all of its residents, no matter what your political affiliation is. So I'm tremendously proud about the work that we've done in having a disciplined plan for our streets and our sidewalks. I'm also tremendously proud of passing the comprehensive plan for Civic Park. So there's a plan because Civic Park is one of our most underserved or underutilized parks in the community. And so I'm tremendously proud that we have a comprehensive plan, and just the idea of, perhaps having an amphitheater there, or having cricket fields there, or having more enhanced trails for the community to take advantage of. Something else that I'm really proud of is that Reynoldsburg, we are the city of respect. And so not only do we celebrate the holidays that are traditional, but Reynoldsburg has actually celebrated Juneteenth before it had become the 12th federal holiday. So we here in Reynoldsburg, we have celebrated that before it was on the map, if you will, and had become popular. I'm tremendously proud to serve with your dad, Councilman Paccarao, who brought Diwali to Central Ohio. And we here in Reynoldsburg, we witnessed the biggest Diwali celebration, I think, in all of Central Ohio. And so I know it'll grow and grow and continue to be a destination here in Reynoldsburg. I'm really excited about that. And then one other, let me back up to Juneteenth. Having that Juneteenth celebration on the steps of City Hall in 2020 and have it grow into the celebration it is now at Hubert Park, it just brings me tremendous pride, because we here in Reynoldsburg, not only do we showcase the diversity of the traditional holidays, but we also give back. So with Juneteenth, I was able to raise money from our vendors, the donation that they paid to participate. Excuse me. We here at Reynoldsburg, we donated 100% of those fees to the African American Male Wellness Agency. And that's important because we can't continue to celebrate our history and our culture and our tradition if we're not healthy. And so health is our wealth, really. It's very important. So thank you for asking me that question.
Thank you for that amazing response. So with all those accomplishments under your belt, where are you looking to go forward in your political career?
Thank you. That's a great question. So I really am just so honored to serve here in Reynoldsburg, to serve my neighbors. So what I want to do in 23 is I have thrown my hat in the ring to be a candidate for president of council. And so thank you. And so that is what I will be focusing on in 23, aside from my actual council priorities. But I will be running to be Reynoldsburg's next council president. And beyond that, I just want to keep myself open. A lot happens, a lot changes in politics in 1 to 2 to 4 years.
Even in a week.
Yes, this is very true. So I'm not sure where my journey will continue in this political world, but I do know that I do enjoy serving. I want to continue to serve, and I will just continue to be open to where God leads me.
So now that you've thrown your hat in the ring, what are you looking to accomplish when you become president of council?
I'd like to say that our current president of council, Angie Jenkins, has done an amazing job, and she is not only a friend to me, but she is also a mentor and a leader. So first and foremost, I want to honor her leadership and to say that I know when I'm elected, and I'm saying that boldly and proudly, when I'm elected, I plan to have uninterrupted leadership in terms of that seat. I plan to sit with our current council president to learn what it is that she's put in place, and then really take it to the next level in terms of serving not only the community, but serving the council, because the council president's job is to basically lay the foundation of what the council agenda would be. Actually run the meeting. And something that's just is new, which has been instituted probably, what is this? This is December. So in November, the voters here in Reynoldsburg voted for a charter amendment for the council president to have a vote. So this is something new. Before, the charter indicated that the council president did not have a vote. And so since the people of Reynoldsburg have voted that they want the council president to have a voice, have a vote, our current president, Madam President Jenkins, has been able to vote. So I look forward to not only leading the meetings, but also being a vote of the people for whatever is brought before us. I don't take it lightly when it comes to a vote. I talk to neighbors. I get a consensus of what my neighbors feel is important. And then I talk to experts. So there might be an expert that stands on one side of an initiative that I may personally feel that I'm on the other side. I like to learn because there's always pros and cons on both sides. So that's my vision, is to continue the leadership and really continue what I'm doing as a ward council person and take it to the next level, to not only represent and serve Ward 4, but continue to be the leader I am for the entire community, for all 4 wards.
Awesome. So in talking about that, I wanted to talk about the former Bhutanese refugee population in Reynoldsburg. So I think, as you may know, a lot of the history behind how we got here. I'm just going to explain it to the viewers really quickly. So in the 1980s, the king and the government of Bhutan introduced a policy called the One Nation, One People policy. And this policy basically stated that anybody who didn't speak the same language as the king, who didn't follow the same religion as the king, who didn't wear the national dress of the king, and there's one more and I can't remember it right now, but anyone who didn't follow those rules would basically be forced out of the country because they were no longer considered Bhutanese citizens. Because of this, 1/6 of the population was forced out of the country in sort of extremely violent way. People were put into prisons, women were raped and assaulted, men were beaten, and it was very violent. It wasn't pleasant, as you could probably guess. But anyways, those Bhutanese citizens first went to India, but India and Bhutan are like this, they're tight. So India refused them any refuge and put them in the backs of black military trucks and basically drove them to the Nepal side of the border. And Nepal would not offer them citizenship, but they did give them refugee camps where they could stay. So a lot of refugees stayed in those refugee camps for 18 plus years. That's how long my parents stayed in the refugee camps. And I was born in the refugee camps. And then in around 2006, 7, or 8, the Bhutanese refugees were offered a chance to be resettled in 2 different countries. I believe 7 countries offered resettlement. And it wasn't like you could pick. You couldn't be like, oh, Denmark looks nice this time of year. It was basically like, you get what you get, you don't throw a fit. So my parents and almost my whole family was resettled to America, and so were a lot of Bhutanese refugees. And then over the years, a large chunk of the population has sort of migrated into Ohio and Pennsylvania, and we have a really big Bhutanese population here in Reynoldsburg. I mean, I feel like at every new like storefront or strip mall area, you can see a Bhutanese-owned store. And that's a really awesome growth for a population that has, for a community that hasn't been here that long. So I just wanted to ask you what you knew about the Bhutanese refugees in Reynoldsburg, and
Yeah. Well, thank you for that bit of history. I knew that you would educate me. Excuse me. So what I know, um, I can proudly say that I served with the very first Bhutanese American that was elected here in the United States. And he's my council colleague, and I'm privileged to sit next to him on the dais. And so I know that that is not only huge for your community and for your family, but it means a great deal to us here in Reynoldsburg, to actually witness history and to know that that will be in the history books that our children will read um, as the years go on. I'm very intrigued by um, your community because it's I I admire the kinship in the family and the strong family values in your community. And I've been able to witness it firsthand in terms of when we had our swearing in and just the deep admiration that your family has. I'm sure the entire community has whenever your grandfather passed away and your uncle passed away, and we all were deeply moved just by the patriarchal setup and the admiration and the respect. I also know that your community contributes to the city of Respect as being the most diverse community here in Central Ohio. And that's another reason why I'm proud to be a member of the community here in Reynoldsburg, because we in Reynoldsburg, our community looks like what our country looks like, what our world looks like. There's certain part of the media or certain parts of or certain Americans that would want us to believe that America is monolithic in terms of how we look, how we dress, what customs we follow and such. And so it's rewarding for me to have a family in a community where everybody doesn't just look like me, everyone doesn't just dress like me, everyone doesn't eat like me. I get to experience our world right here in Reynoldsburg, and that's what I appreciate.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. In Fairfield, not everybody looks the same, but like judging from the businesses in Fairfield, you would think that everybody is the same. I mean, I really truly miss like the large selection of authentic food we have in Reynoldsburg. It's just, I arrived there and I was like, oh my god, India Cafe is my only option, and it was absolutely crazy to me. So while we're talking about Reynoldsburg, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Pretend I am somebody completely new to Reynoldsburg. I haven't heard anything about it. The only thing I know about Reynoldsburg is that we have tomatoes here. And I asked you some of these questions because you have just been elected as the president of council. So starting off, where do I need to go in Reynoldsburg? Like, what are the must-go places?
Well, there's plenty, and you put me on the spot. So off the top of my head, almost like popcorn feedback, I'll say Raider Nutrition, because that's an awesome place. That's one of my favorite watering holes, if you will. They serve awesome shakes and teas, hot coffee and hot teas. Of course, I have to say Sargum, authentic food. It's great atmosphere. Let's see. So the question is, where do you need to visit?
Yeah.
You obviously need to visit the parks. So we shared Civic Park is our largest, most underused park. So I would definitely say go to Civic Park, go to Huber Park, go to JFK Park, walk the trails, and the granddaddy of them all, the Blacklick Park. You have to go to Blacklick to experience the nature walks. But I would be remiss if I did not share Pine Quarry. That
Wow.
is a gem here in Reynoldsburg, and it is one of my favorite places to visit in the spring and the fall. Because one thing about Ohio, we might get blizzards, but we do experience all four seasons.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course, the why. Look, the why is on my list. And thank you for my friends in the studio audience for reminding me. Yes, the why is a must-see. I'm a community center, so not only does it have all of the snazziness of your local YMCA, but it's also a community center. And the Y partners with the community in so many various ways. It could be local organizations, it could be the city of Reynoldsburg, it could be the schools. So that's another gem of the city.
Yeah, I really enjoy the Y pool, especially like during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Nicest place to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, one or two last questions before we end, and I might be putting you on the spot with this one.
Uh-oh.
But what is like the one greatest piece of advice you'd like to share with everybody?
The greatest piece of advice. So I think it's a couple of things, but it's all about telling yourself that you are enough. Be your own best friend. Be your own cheerleader. I can't tell you enough. As a young woman, I look at you, I look at my daughter who's a college student, and I am so appreciative of your confidence and how you're so sure of yourself. And the same with my daughter, and I tell her all the time that I wish that I were like her when I was a teenager and when I was a young woman. So my piece of advice is you are enough, and be your own best friend. And sometimes you just have to, as I said earlier, put your shoulders back and encourage yourself and say, "Atta girl, let's go for it. Come on, Aditi, let's do it."
Thank you for that awesome piece of advice, and I think with that, we've gotten through everything.
Excellent.
So thank you so much for being here. It was a great honor talking to you today.
Oh, thank you.
And to everybody who's watching, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. That's really important. And yeah, thank you for being here. Bye.